Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Welcome to Hawthorne. I'm Julian Slowick, and tonight it'll be our pleasure to feed you.
The curtain rises.
Over the next few hours, you will ingest fat, salt, sugar, protein, bacteria, fungi, various plants and animals, and at times entire ecosystems. But I have to beg of you one thing. It's just one. Do not eat. Taste. Savor. Relish. Consider every morsel that you place inside your mouth. Be mindful, but do not eat. Our menu is too precious for that. And look around you. Here we are, on this island. Accept all of it. And forgive. And on that note, food.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Film Bros podcast. My name is Isaiah Lucas, and I am joined by my co-host,
Nick. I'm tempted to say my last name when you do that because I feel like the cadence would be a little better, but
Jives a little more.
I always just I catch myself up. Yeah. Still not used to it.
Just us.
Right here, we need a counter. Days without or days with AB, and now we flip it back to 0.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, unfortunately, Abe's not with us again. He's sick right now. He's going through it, so we're gonna have to go alone this time.
Yeah,
and it sucks because I don't think he even got to check out this banger of a movie.
I hope he did. Knowing his sickness, I don't know if he had the
wherewithal.
The mindset to get through it.
Yeah, but it's a great movie,
and
I'll be upset if he didn't get to check it out.
True. Would you classify this as a horror movie? I know I read some people said yes.
I know that it's classified that way when you Google it. It's classified as like a horror comedy. I would maybe say like
it's kind of hard for me.
Like a black comedy or like a dark comedy. I don't know. When I watch this movie, I just think I would just say it's satire.
Satire.
Like, and that's what the film is, and I think that's important to know going in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because people, if you go into a satire film not knowing that it's like making fun of itself or poking fun at a bigger message, you're gonna be watching it and be like, "This movie sucks.
It's too ham-fisted.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't the real world." Yeah.
And I don't know. I think if I was to classify this film, it would just be that it's a satire.
I think satire is a really good description of it. I just think it's like a suspenseful movie. Just
categorize thriller,
suspense/thriller.
Yeah,
with comedy bits.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know, but I feel like horror is just such a like umbrella term. So I don't want to be like, that's not horror.
Yeah,
because it kind of is. I mean,
I can see the aspects of like why people would want to call it horror, right? I mean, there's people dying left and right and stuff, and like there's definitely like, you know, tension. Like there's like a whole like chase sequence. But like, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's horror.
Not in the way that instills like terror in me, which is what I associate with horror movies.
Yeah, it's just that suspense, that feeling of like, oh, what's gonna happen?
Looking over my shoulder.
Yeah, anxiety.
Not being aware. Like it kind of changes my reality a little bit. Where I'm like, what's real? Is this thing real? I don't know.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is more just like, what's happening next?
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
Yeah, like I mean, in that same aspect, like you wouldn't call Good Time a horror movie.
No.
Like that's straight up a thriller.
Yeah, that's like
because there is just rising action the entire time, and I think that could be said for this movie as well.
Agree, wholeheartedly. Yeah. The movie we're talking about, if you haven't heard last week, is The Menu. This was directed by Mark Mylod and written by Seth Reiss and Will Tracy. Came out in 2022, so it's pretty recent. And streaming on HBO Max. It's my second time watching it. I thought it was just as good. In fact, I think this time might be better because I noticed little details throughout the movie that I was like, oh, wow, that connects to that. And it makes more sense because you can start to see these little, like, these characters know each other slightly. And it builds up later on. So I really enjoyed the second watch. Yeah,
me too. I think that a rewatch is like, I just agree with what you're saying. The rewatch makes my appreciation for the film go through the roof. Because I remember watching this movie for the first time, and I walked out of it and was like, that was actually like really good. It was fun. Like I had fun watching the movie, and I laughed at certain parts of it. And I enjoy satire when it's done correctly. When satire is done bad, it's awful.
Yeah.
And this is an instance where I think it's done correctly. And it knows its subject matter, and it knows the type of audience that it's depicting. And I think that that's so important whenever you do a good satire film.
Yeah, and I think it's really accessible, too, because this movie is really as deep as you want it to be.
Yeah.
You could be like, you could talk about those restaurant industry and how it's, like, degrading, and you could go into art, and then you could go into, like, the different ways the society looks down on, like, adult workers. You can go into, like, all of that thing, and then you could just be like, chef kills. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's as deep as you want it to go.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's just so, like, you can talk to about anyone and be like, yo, that scene was crazy, but how did it make you feel?
Yeah.
And there's go any direction.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I love about just film in general. And I think that's, like, even one of the reasons why we wanted to even start this thing.
It's true.
Like, somebody could have a way completely different take on a film, and because the both of you two have watched it, you can have a conversation about it and start to help that person either recognize things that maybe they didn't know, and then they're like, oh man, I gotta go back and check this out with knowing that, and maybe have this entire new appreciation for this movie or something like that.
Yeah.
Or they can take it as they want, and just be like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. I don't know if I agree, And I just always loved having that conversation specifically.
Yeah, it's an exploration of yourself, and sometimes.
Yeah,
because this I mean, especially this movie brings up some topics of like, how would you feel? How do you feel in this situation? Would you even put yourself in a situation of like a higher dining restaurant? How would you feel if you sat down and you're anticipating bread and they don't give you bread?
Yeah.
Would you be like one of these characters who is like gawking at the chef, or would you be like these other characters who are just fiending for some bread?
Yeah.
And it's like it's really, coaxing you into asking those questions.
Yeah.
And how you would respond.
Yeah.
Which is why I wanted to ask you, do you even care about art as food like this, or do you think it's kind of like farty, like artsy fartsy kind of thing? Because in my opinion, I can see where there is merit in like culinary arts, but at the end of the day, I want something to eat. That's
like, and that's why I think I love Matty Matheson as a cook so much, is because he went through the ringer of, going to culinary arts school and being Michelin rated and going through all this stuff. And at the end of it was kind of like, that was all bullcrap. Like, if you can make me a good burger or like some great tacos or lasagna, like, that's what I want to eat.
Yeah.
I don't want to like have, escargot on a Wednesday night, or like lamb seared in garlic butter sauce and like all this like, like exquisite sounding things.
Yeah.
Like, I want something that is going to comfort me, or something that, just is easy to make, like that anyone can do. And I don't want to, put any of this like pretentiousness into it.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I probably would never go to a restaurant like this, because you get a plate and like 90% of it is things you can't even eat, like rocks and decorative flowers. Yeah. And you get like one tasty bite and you're like, yeah, that was worth $1,000. I'm like,
no, dude, that's not. I get pissed if I spent $20 on a burger that was not good.
Yeah.
Like if I go to Five Guys and my burger is not great, I'm like, dude, I spent $40 for nothing, dude.
For nothing.
I couldn't imagine spending $1,250 on one little scallop and the rest of my plate being a rock. Like I would,
and it's supposed to, represent the island it came from, and life and death, the cycle, the ecosystem you're killing, and
and I would be like, I don't care. I'm hungry still. Like
I'm not at that point in life.
I paid you $1,200 to feed me, and you gave me one bite.
Yeah,
and
that's the cool thing about food, because it is like it can be as simple as
you want it.
I want to make this food just to connect with a person.
Yeah.
It's a universal language.
Mm-hmm.
But people do elevate it to art. And I am by no means an art snob. Like,
no. See, and that's what I think. I think you hit why I like Matty Matheson and like a very deconstructed view on what culinary arts is because at the end of the day, food is meant to bring people together.
Yeah.
And to like enjoy together. It's not meant to be like high nose, at least in my mind.
Yeah. So. I don't know. I can't see myself saying, And then like when the guy pours the wine and he's like, you get notes of sadness and despair. I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
There's no world in which I'm sitting there going, oh yes, very intellectual.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to be like? Grape juice.
Yeah. I'm like, that's dry.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. That's why it was more interesting because this is part of the food world that is shown always.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see it through Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
All of these highbrow, and they do. I mean, they have a lot of talent.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
where is the love? Yeah.
I'm about to call you Slowick.
Yeah. There you
go. Yeah. So I guess we get into it.
All right. Well, why don't you give us a little synopsis of the film real quick and a spoiler warning, and then we'll get into it.
Okay. This film, like we were talking about, involves food, and it involves one of the highest, most prestigious restaurants called the I forget the actual the Hawthorne. And there's a guy by Chef Slowick. He is the dude who runs the place. And we follow a group of people, but two in particular called Margot and Tyler. Now, these two people are going, and they paid a lot of money, and you could tell right off the rip that Tyler is just this foodie snob. He knows the ins and out of the food world, and he is like, this is going to be his lifetime bucket list item.
You know what Tyler's character reminds me of?
Who?
Is that meme of this couple at a baseball game or something like that, and he's wearing these glasses, he's talking to this girl who is like paying no attention to him, and he's like this, he's all he's talking like that, and like the meme is always like saying something that's so niche that like nobody else would care about but you, and being like, well, did you know that actually whenever the guy in Lord of the Rings kicked the helmet, that he actually broke his foot, so whenever he screamed, that was actually a cry of real pain. They're just like not paying attention at all. That's Tyler.
He reminds me of the kid in college that goes, actually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually. Actually, what you're tasting is more of an acidic tone rather than a bassy tone.
Yes. He is that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And opposing him, his date, is Margot, she's smoking, she's this carefree lady who is kind of just on the ride. He's paying for it. It's almost, they set it up as like she's just there to support him. She's that loving girlfriend there to support him, whatever. Yeah. But she's not into all that highbrow stuff. So she's kind of getting dragged along, and they go to this island, and, they experience the menu. And it quickly turns into more than what they bargained for. And it ends up being suspenseful.
Yeah.
Which is all I want to really say.
Yeah. Before we get into spoilers, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, this is going to be a spoiler-heavy episode, so if you haven't checked the movie out and you have HBO Max, do yourself a favor and go watch this movie. It's a fun time, and it is it's a fun time. I'll just say that. Yep. So that way you are not disappointed or anything like that. No. So spoiler warning here. Go check it out. We are going to be talking about spoilers. If you care, pause it, come back to the episode once you've watched it. If you don't care, continue listening, or if you just want to hear what we have to say about it, continue listening.
Let's see it.
So, and then the movie, I believe, is rated R. So if
It
that's
is.
something that you have any reservations about or something like that, maybe check it out, see what you might think about that stuff before you watch it. But other than that, we're going to get into it.
Yes, we are.
So what's your
let's
first
see.
favorite scene?
My first favorite scene is just getting introduced to all the characters. I call it the amuse-bouche. It's that like first little like dollops of, and then the sea.
Yeah, the scum, the pond scum.
Yeah.
And the like little diced cucumber and mango.
Like these little tiny little
spheres.
Yeah.
And powdered snow or whatever it's
I have
called.
I really have no clue. But it's
Yeah.
really just the introduction of the characters and the different dynamics each one brings. I loved it. I thought, even from the beginning, Tyler is this like, he almost seems like just this full of passion guy, almost to a fault where he's kind of like harsh, brash.
Yeah.
You get that like interesting tone about him. And then of course that whole Margot difference. But not only that, you get all of these other guys, like they're sitting there waiting for the boat to come to take them to the island. And then you get these banker guys who come and they're just like kind of almost frat boys kind of thing where they're like, yeah, we're doing this because we got the money.
Yeah.
And then he even calls them like, these are the power eaters.
Yeah.
Like kind of already looking his, tilting his nose down to him.
Yeah.
You get the older couple that are just there because they're old because they got the money too.
Yeah.
And then you get the, that washed up actor kind of guy who's like, oh, I know the chef. He's my friend.
Yeah.
And then you get the critic, who is Tyler's, another idol that Tyler has, where he's like, I can't believe she's here.
If she's here, we're gonna eat good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just get introduced to all these people. They get tugged onto this island, and they get to see the men out there doing the harvesting of oysters that they're gonna eat later.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how they set up this kind of. It's almost mysterious in a way because the lady who's directing them is like, follow me.
Yeah,
this
she's like a
way."
robot almost.
A
Like
little
she's
bit.
very calculated and like soft spoken and all this stuff. Yeah.
And they bring her to. Well, even before that, too, it even introduces a question of, as they're getting, like registered, signed in, or whatever. She walks up, and her name is Margot, but she's being called by a different last name.
Yeah.
And you're immediately like, oh, you think it's just embarrassing because
Second
this
choice.
was, it was meant for someone else. This is
Yeah.
like a rebound kind of thing. And you're like,
Yeah, that's a bro moment for me right there was finding out that Margot is second choice.
yeah.
And that like
that's
he
rough.
originally asked for someone else to be there, but then they canceled.
And it's he almost kind of gets caught up not knowing her last name either, where she's like, Mills.
Yeah.
And that's embarrassing. But yeah, I love the whole thing.
Yeah.
Of them getting tugged in, getting their seats, really filling out the island. Even going to that smokehouse and being like, this meat has been aged for 152 days.
Yeah.
And one of the guys is like, well, what happens when it goes to 153? She's like, well, in that case, bacteria would be introduced and whoever ingested it would slowly die and become incapacitated.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the?
Yeah. And she was like, so yeah, in other words, all hell would break loose.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just elevating this place to a status that is achievable only by
Wealth
or the quote unquote
Status.
culinary
Yeah.
gods,
Yeah.
And got me engaged. I was really like, okay, this is sick.
Yeah. My first favorite scene is the first course of the night.
Okay.
And I believe the first course is the scallops that they see harvested in your favorite scene whenever they get brought to the island. And one of the things that I love about this scene is that it introduces like the clap.
Yes.
That Chef Slowick does. And just seeing how he like commands a room and like almost the jump scariness
It is.
of the clap is like scary in and of itself, and seeing how like this guy just controls everything, like anywhere this man walks, like you see somebody just tediously like working like to make sure that things are done to the like absolute fifth degree. Like, and the way this man just walks around the room and just has this dominance, like he is a force to be reckoned with. And like if you look at him the wrong way, you might think like, oh, he doesn't like me now because I looked at him this way or something. He just has this presence about him, and I love seeing that. And then I also love just Ralph Fiennes as an actor.
He's
here.
awesome.
Like he is just phenomenal in this role, and I I really enjoy him here. And first off, I gotta say, the first course is wild. Like,
it is.
I would be so upset if this was my dinner. Like, I paid $12.50, like, ahead, right? So say I'm in Tyler's shoes, I paid $12.50 times 2, which is almost $3,000 to eat like 2 scallops off of a local rock.
It's like
that's on the plate from the island, and like all the indigenous flowers and plant life that's surrounding it and all this stuff, and I get 2 scallops.
Yeah, and like I think there's even like kelp.
Yeah,
that they're eating up to. It's like just looks like nasty.
Yeah, and I man, I was just putting myself in that position where I was like, dude, if I got that on my plate, I would be upset. Like, I would be like, what am I supposed to do with this freaking huge rock, dude? Like, I'm about to throw it at you, dude. Give me more food. Yes. I'm paying hella money for this, man.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I also love the like monologue that the chef Slowick goes on, and it's like very nihilistic. Like, he like goes on this whole monologue how he's like, we are nothing, basically, and like, if we do not protect our environment, then we will equate to nothing, and we have to understand that we are harming ecosystems whenever we do cook. So remember, like, you are nothing, and you're gonna poop this stuff out, and you're not even gonna remember it. So like, try to do all this other stuff. And like, while he's like like berating his audience and telling them like, we aren't going to remember any of this, you're all pieces of crap, like, we're nothing special, all this stuff, Tyler the entire time is just like eating it all up. And it's just like, he even cries, I think.
Margot, like, after she hears the speech, she turns and she's like, what a load of it. And he looks at he's going
yeah, he's crying, dude. And I'm like, dude, you're so lost in the sauce.
He is lost in it, man.
Yeah, and like, he's just so up this guy's butt where like, he will take anything he says as gospel. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Dude. He's on that meat.
Yeah, seriously. And yeah, it's just a funny scene. And also, like, just sets up Tyler's character to just be so irritating.
Oh, yeah.
And like, so, again, just in the sauce. Like, he is just completely lost. Like, there's no hope for this guy.
Yeah.
So,
and I love it too, because all throughout the scene too, where they're building up each relationship, you see the critic and her confidant talking about the artistic nature and how it's like, we're eating the ocean. And they're like, it's almost like what they're going to write in their next article. It seems like all these high elevated words, what you're saying, thoracic or...
Yeah, like words that don't even sound real.
Yeah, it's like some, like, I think they're talking about like some god of the sea or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the camera swivels over to the washed up actor, and he's like talking and eating it. He's like, "Oh, this is good." Well, the whole time his like assistant,
he's like pitching an idea for a TV show about food.
Yes, but even though the assistant lady is like, "This is my goodbye speech. Here are your keys. Here's the phone. Here's everything. I'm basically quitting." And he's like, "No, you're not. No, you're not. You can't do this to me. I'm just gonna ignore you."
Yeah. And
like, you just get all of these interesting relationships that are building up. There's this old lady that's in the corner drinking. You don't know who she is.
Yeah.
You get the older couple that like are just, they almost
are there acting like the one other person like doesn't exist.
Weird, right? No, it's almost like they're kind of just dead to each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's so interesting seeing all these relationships, how they build up, how they're, changing each conversation as we go through the film. It's just really cool. They're like carving their space, which is making them feel really distinct.
Yeah.
Which I love a lot.
Yeah.
That leads into I skip a couple courses and I go down to the 4th course called The Mess.
Oh, okay.
So if you've got anything before that.
I like the 3rd course.
The 3rd course is the bread?
The chicken thigh.
Yes. Okay.
And so I love this scene specifically. And I also love how the film is broken up, because it gets broken up like you're a part of the menu, because it's broken up in courses, right? So like, you'll get these shots of like the beach and all this stuff where it will be like 2nd course, whatever it is that they're eating, and then like it'll have like a moral of, you know, what the meal is supposed to be about or something like that. But then the third course comes along, and Chef Slowick starts to tell this like incredibly dark story about his father who was like a drunk.
Oh, it's called Memory.
Yeah.
It? Yes.
And he was like, these, you know, whenever I make food, I want it to evoke memory. And this specific course is called Memory because it evokes one for me. And it was a memory of my drunk dad, like beating my mother basically. And my mom like not doing anything to stop his abuse. So I had to step in and I stabbed him in the thigh with a pair of like kitchen scissors. And so what you guys are going to eat is chicken al pastor tacos with like homemade tortillas. But specifically, you're going to eat chicken thigh that also has like the kitchen shears stabbed into the thigh.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that whenever you eat this food, it will also evoke memories of your own.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also reveals that like, oh, and also the tortillas that you're about to eat were also like in they have art sketched into them from our laser engraving machine. So each tortilla is personalized to you. And so everyone starts to kind of start unwrapping their tortillas and they're looking. And one of the people is like, I think Tyler specifically is like, this is a photo of me taking a picture of the food that I was told not to right here, right now.
And he's like super embarrassed.
Yeah. And he's like, dude, I'm embarrassed. He's calling me out. He's telling me he hates me because I'm doing something he asked me not to do. I'm taking pictures of the food and all this stuff. And then like we cut over to like the finance bros and they're looking at like tortillas and they're straight up like tax fraud documentation like on the tortillas. And they're like, this is proof that we've embezzled money like on a tortilla.
Yeah. They're like, well,
and they're like, where the heck did they get this stuff? Right.
Yeah.
Same thing could be said for the actor.
It's just
George
like crappy.
Diaz. It's like his crappy role that he played called Calling Dr. Sunshine.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh man, you know, like, yeah, this does evoke a memory for me. It was a crap movie and like really crap writing, but you know, it was fun to make. And you know, that happens for everybody that's taking place in the menu tonight. And I just think it's super funny just watching all of these people have different interactions with these tortillas. And specifically, like whenever the finance bros call the host over, and they're like, "Excuse me, like what is this?" And she was like, "Those are tortillas." And like, and he's like, "Yeah, I know that they're tortillas. Like, what is this?" And she goes, "Those are tortillas delicioso." Like, and he's like, "Dude, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. Like, what is this on it?" And she goes, "Oh, those are fake charges from your company that are proof that you've been like embezzling money." And they start getting this like high horse attitude where they're like, do you know who we are?
We're going to shut you down.
Yeah, we work for your investor who like owns this place. We're going to shut you down if you know anything about this. And, you know, she basically just tells him like, screw off. Like, you just eat your food. Yeah. You have nothing on us, basically. And like, if one of his bros kind of chimes in and is like, you know, we have plausible deniability. Yeah. We didn't know and all this stuff. And then it, you know, it moves on to other people who are having their own moments and own memories being evoked with their tortillas. But yeah, and then it eventually gets to the point where I think Margot has something happen on her tortilla. I'm not sure what it was.
I don't think she gets a tortilla. Or
she has something to where she needs to go to the bathroom. Like something. It was because Tyler was getting so confused with the photos. So then she starts to like make a scene, and he's all starts snapping at her.
Yes, and calls her a child.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then
she bro moment for me.
And she storms off and goes to the bathroom because she needs a moment by herself. And then Chef follows her in there.
Yeah.
And that was a huge bro moment for me. Was, you know, him going into the bathroom to confront her, and just that whole moment, just how tense it is. Like, you don't know what this guy is going to do or what he's capable of, because at this point in the film, you haven't seen him do anything crazy, but he is calling people out, like, and he is like just this commanding figure, like I had said before, so you just don't know what he's capable of yet.
Right.
And one of the reasons why I really like this scene specifically is, Margot goes in there to smoke to, take the edge off or whatever it may be, and Chef comes in and is just like confronting her, and asking her like, "Who are you?" Mm-hmm. Well, the menu was painstakingly thought about tonight and planned, and you are not a part of the plan, and you're ruining it and all this stuff. And one of the reasons I really like this scene, especially on a rewatch, is because on a first watch, you were siding with Margot, and you're like thinking, this guy is a jerk, and he's telling her, you don't belong, you're ruining things and all this stuff, and you shouldn't be here.
You're like, screw off.
Yeah, so you're, in Margot's eyes, if you're watching this for the first time, you're like, yo, screw you, dude. Like, I deserve to be here just as much as everybody, right? Mm-hmm. I paid. That means I get to be here. And, you really identify with her, and that's how she takes this interaction as well. But then on a rewatch, you kind of, I don't know, I got this feeling of like Chef almost warning her and being like, you shouldn't be here. I can tell that you're different. I can tell that you're not a Margot. I've dealt with many Margos, and you're not one of them. And you should not be here. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's almost coming from a place of like empathy. Like you,
a little bit, huh?
You should not be here to witness what's going to happen tonight. Like I don't know that much about you.
You don't belong.
And you don't belong here because all these other people are trash. They're dirtbags. Yeah. And I can't pin that on you just yet. So you shouldn't be here.
Yeah. And I think that's what leads him to give her the decision. Are you a giver or are you a taker?
Yeah.
Which is definitely a big bro moment for me. Mm-hmm. And that the whole time we're in this place, walking through the intro of the tour or whatever, there's just this, I don't know if you caught it, but there's just like a weird vibe. It's just like there's something almost mysterious about this island. And my favorite scene is the fourth course. And I think this is where this mysterious tone finally tips over into this just jaw-dropping suspense thriller that the movie kind of, transforms into. And it's called... The course is called The Mess, and it starts off with Slowick calling down one of his sous chefs. I forget the dude's name, but...
Yeah, this whole scene is a bro moment for me.
It's a freaking bro moment.
It's insane.
It is. I loved it because it caught me so off guard, and it really changes the tone of the movie. He comes down, and he starts talking about this guy, about how he's worked as hard as he could to be where he's at, and he's good, but he's not the best. Yeah. And he will never be the best. And no matter how hard he tries, he will never be like me. And the guy's just sitting there, and he goes, isn't that right? And he goes, yes, chef. Yeah. And he's like, you almost kind of see he's like choking up a little bit, starting to cry. And he starts asking him questions like, do you want my life? Not my status or my anything, but my life. And he said no. And he's like, and do you want like the sorrow that this life brings? And he says no. So he's sitting there, and all the while, all the other people are setting up. They put a tarp down. They put tarps to cover the kitchen up, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, is this like a little performance part of the meal or whatever? So the Slowick walks away, and he goes, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you The Mess. And the guy just stands there, and he pulls the gun out and ends it right there.
Himself right in front of everybody.
Blood splatters everywhere, and everyone is like, is this real?
Is this real? What just happened? Like,
yes.
This is insane.
And my thoughts exactly. I was like, the heck is happening here? Is this this is no longer, oh, I'm going to sit here and enjoy a nice meal. This is like, am I going to survive this night? Yeah. Yeah. And it caught me so off guard and really set the tone for the rest.
Yeah, seriously. And one of the things that was just so jaw-dropping to this scene for me was watching everybody's reaction to The Mess. Like Tyler's reaction, he like
it's sickening kind of.
He has this like almost like no reaction to this man dying, and it's just like,
doesn't he continue eating?
Yeah, he like continues eating and like starts picking food off of Margot's plate and all this stuff, and is like, if you're not gonna eat that, I'm gonna eat that. Meanwhile, there's a dead guy like right in front of everyone, and everyone's still reacting to it. Like Lillian, the critic, the entire time is just like oh, this is
a performance.
This is obviously performance art. It's a critique on, male toxicity in the kitchen, like some dumb crap like that. And meanwhile, there's straight up a dead body, like on the floor, brain everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, and like it's just the reactions from everybody is what really sets it over the top.
It does.
And again, like you had said, it just takes the movie to this entirely new level.
Mm-hmm.
And
I appreciated it for that.
Yeah, I also liked too how like when it happens, everyone's freaking out, and Chef Sloak just keeps assuring everybody like, this is all a part of the menu.
Sit
like
down.
You just need to sit down and enjoy it. This is all a part of the menu.
Yes.
Look
I'm sitting there thinking that looked convincingly real. Like this guy just ended it. But then especially the first time I watched, I was like, but is it real? Like I don't know I don't know the goals here. I don't know what is going on.
Yeah.
It was still kind of shrouded in some mystery, but like there's a very real sense of danger.
Exactly.
Which I freaking love. And I don't have very much else until the Coast Guard scene comes in.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's the next time because I just had so many bro moments that I wanted to touch on, but...
Okay. Now, remind me, does that Coast Guard scene come before or after Tyler gets put on the spot?
I think Tyler getting put on the spot is after.
Okay. Because that is my next favorite scene whenever he gets ousted in front of everybody.
Okay. I'm trying to think. There's so much different things like the dude gets his freaking finger chopped off.
Oh yeah.
They go and have that like run outside.
Yeah, the palate cleanser.
Yeah, the palate cleanser, and the women kind of go in and have their meal and talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's at this moment when I think it's when Margot, because he calls Margot in, tells her to get the barrel, and she does her whole thing.
I think it takes place before, actually.
Is it before that?
Yeah, because I have the Coast Guard scene sequence in my bro moments, and there's something before that takes place.
Okay, so go for it.
So later on into the movie, there comes a situation where Chef decides to deviate from the menu and says, like, this is not a part of it. But we have somebody here who is, like, one of my number one fans, basically, and, like, you know, knows everything there is to know about cooking and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I just want to commemorate him and let him know that, you know, his efforts are seen and he's validated and all this stuff. And, you know, Tyler starts to kind of, like, all the entire time has been thinking, like, oh, this guy hates me. Like, you know, I tasted his food wrong and all this stuff, and now he doesn't like me. And I tasted this palate cleanser that's, you know, I had to be the guy to be like, oh, is this bergamot?
The tea.
Yeah, and he's just like,
yes,
that's bergamot that you're getting. Like, you know, I just had to be the guy that's going to be up Chef's butt. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to give you the chance to, like, you know, show your knowledge, and I want you to cook something. And Tyler is like, what? And he's like, I want you to cook something. We have everything here in the kitchen you could ever need, so let me see you cook something. Mm-hmm. You have all the knowledge in the world.
And the fools.
Yeah, you have everything you need to know about what it is to cook, so let's see you do it. And it comes down to the point where he's like, oh, crap. Like, I'm getting put on the spot.
They put his white apron on.
They like sign it. They put Tyler on there and all this stuff. Yeah. And then, you know, he starts trying to cook, and it is just going awry.
Terribly. Like, I think he's just so nervous.
Yeah, and, like, he just doesn't know what he's doing exactly. And that's the whole point of this whole segment is that, you know, Tyler can sit here and have all the knowledge in the world, but if he's never done anything, if he's never cooked any meals, then, like, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that Chef is, like, trying to point out in this whole demonstration. Mm-hmm. And Tyler just, like, he asks for, like, leeks, and he, like, cuts them horribly and chops them terribly.
And he's like, oh, this is a new way of chopping we haven't learned before. Yeah. And he's just going,
yeah, just, like, chopping them to bits. And, like, you know, he's, like, asking for butter to, like, baste these leeks in, and then he wants to cook a lamb alongside of it, and, like, and he ends up undercooking the lamb and, like, burning the crap out of the leeks and all this stuff.
It looks horrible.
Yeah, it looks like a mess. And he plates it and all this stuff, and then Chef decides to eat it. And once he tastes it, he is like, that might single-handedly be the worst thing I've ever eaten.
Yeah, he's like, that's bad.
Yeah, like this is bad. And you know, Tyler the entire time is just like got this look of like total and utter defeat. Like he is just like, everything I know is gone. It's a lie. Like I should just leave now.
Yeah.
Right. And I love this scene because we get to see like one thing I wanted to mention too was like when Tyler is cooking, he starts like cursing and like, you know, fumbling over his words and his ingredients and stuff. And he's like, "What do you?" The chef is like, "What do you want? What will make this easier?" And he's like, "Oh, crap! Oh, shoot!" And he goes, "Crap? You want some crap? Like,
yeah,
to like cook with your food?"
Mm-hmm.
And once he finally finishes, like this guy just destroys him. And then I love this this moment that they share with one another where it's inaudible in the movie, so you don't get to hear what goes on, but you know, Chef kind of leans into Tyler's ear and says something to him that just destroys Tyler even further. And like you just get this close up of Tyler's face where he is just like broken, mouth agape, doesn't know how to react to what it was that he just heard, and just kind of walks away into this room and is yet to be found. And once we find out what happens to him was a huge bro moment for me, because at this point we get Chef telling Margot to, you know, take the keys to the smokehouse and go get this barrel that needs to be there and all this stuff. And once she gets the keys, she turns around and she sees Tyler hanging
from his tie.
Yeah, and Tyler went and straight up hung himself in this room.
Yeah, and for as gruesome and dark and like vile as it is, I still felt like this is kind of, you know, what he deserves.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like they paint this guy in such a horrible light where it's just horrible. Like you kind of deserved it.
Like he treats Margot like absolute dog crap.
Yeah. And
to see the end of his tirade that he was on is like, it feels like this is fitting for a character like him. You know?
And then it even made me think too, like, because of how up his butt Tyler was, like, it almost makes me think like if Chef almost told him like, yo, end it. Like
if it was that easy?
Like if it was that easy for him to just be like, you could never cook, like you have no place in the culinary industry, KYS. Like, and he is just like that up his butt where he's just like, okay.
Yeah, Chef.
All right.
Yeah.
And does it. Like,
and
it's just, it's crazy. And that's the thing, is like, we'll never know what's said, but the imagination can run wild there. Which I appreciate.
Yeah. Pretty cool. My next, I'm on the wrong category here. My next favorite scene is, of course, the Coast Guard scene. She gets the task to go and get the barrel that the host forgot. So she goes out. She, I don't know what she's deciding. I think she's kind of thinking to herself, what kind of strategy can I make to get out of here successfully? You know, she gets the barrel. She notices a knife. She grabs that. And as she's walking, she goes past the chef's house that nobody's allowed inside. She thinks, what a perfect opportunity. She goes in, and in the shadows, you just see a figure. You're like, what the? So she goes into this room. She goes in there, and it's so weird. It's like a mirrored, like a perfect copy of the restaurant that they were in, like down to the T.
Yeah.
It's got all the empty tables. It's set up to where the kitchen is like the heart of it, and there's all the food prepped everywhere, but nobody's there. Mm-hmm. You think to yourself, like, what the heck? This guy is like some kind of psychosis happening here. It's like, this is his house?
Yeah.
Weird, you know? Maybe he's like rehearsing everything that's happening, whatever. Mm-hmm. But he's going through, and then the host finally shows herself with a knife. And she says, like, I'm not going to let you take my place.
Yeah.
And she starts to attack her, and cuts her in the arm, and she's like, you know, I worked so hard to be here. You're not going to take my place. I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And Margot has to defend herself. She does a whole bunch of stuff. She throws the Paco jet at her. I died when that happened.
Yeah.
And she ends up like overpowering her and gets her right in the
in the throat.
Yeah, right in the throat, which was crazy.
Yeah.
And after all that happens, she goes to this like silver door
that is hidden, like no one can know what's behind there.
Yeah, and she finally makes her way through, and it's this like room full of like memorabilia or pictures or important moments in this guy's life, and she's scanning the room. She sees all these pictures of, and it's kind of weird because all of the pictures he is looking like he's depressed.
Yeah, he hates himself.
Yeah, like it's him with the Varick, the co-owner guy, and he's sitting there like sad.
Yeah, like in front of the restaurant.
Yeah, almost like it's the opening day or something.
Yeah.
And then you go and you see him with his kids, and he doesn't really look happy. You see a bunch of news reports of him, all of his successes.
That were written by the food critic that's there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it gets to all the way, it goes through a bunch of stuff, and then at the very end you see him as a cook making hamburgers, and he has the biggest cheese smile on his face. Mm-hmm. And she's taking it all in. She's noticing everything, and she noticed. I in my opinion, she's like, okay, this is the last time he had pleasure in his life. Mm-hmm. You could tell through all the pictures, kind of documenting it.
Yeah.
And then she notices a radio. She calls the radio in. We think good. They're gonna be saved.
Yeah.
So she makes her way back with the barrel, saves it, takes a seat, and I don't know if they're getting ready for another course or whatever, but all of a sudden you hear the boat docking, and everyone is like, yeah, and Sloak is like, what the heck? So he starts to clean up. He puts he like tries to cover up that dude's nose with blood. He covers that. He wraps the bandage. He gives the guy a sling, puts the coat over Margot because she had blood all over her. And you feel like, oh crap, this is their one and only chance. And he straight up tells them like,
you're not going to say anything.
Yeah, he's like, you're not going to say anything. What? Two things. One, this guy's innocent, and if he comes here, he will die, and his blood will be on your hands. Yeah. And two, you guys really could have got out of here. Yeah. you just didn't even try.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
It's kind of true, right? They probably could have all overpowered.
Yeah.
But none of them did it. And the dude ends up coming in, and it's a little weird, but he kind of is like Sloak is talking his way through it. He's like, there's no ham radios here. Mm-hmm. We're just enjoying a meal. If you could kindly leave so we can enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then he recognizes the washed up actor.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, yo, you're from that movie.
Yeah.
And it goes, and he's like, let me get an autograph. And he writes out, help us.
Yeah.
And he reads it as he's walking out, and then he draws his gun. And everyone is like, get him, it's him, he's killing people. Yeah. And tell me, were you like fully on board with this guy?
At first, yeah. I was like, oh, dude, this guy's he's about to kill the chef. Like they're fully convinced, like, we're going to get him taken away, all this stuff. And I got thrown for a loop the first time.
Yeah.
Like, when I saw this for the first time, I was just like, there's no way. Yeah. He's in on it.
Yeah, everyone was so excited. And then he pulls his gun. He tilts his gun to a candle and goes, and it's a lighter.
Yeah. And then everyone is immediately like, mouth agape. No. He takes it off. And he like thanks him and is like, all right, get back on the line.
Yeah, he's like, this is all part of community.
Yeah.
Being one, working together. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It was all a show.
Yeah.
Definitely one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah. It's a whole bro moment for me, man. It's crazy. My last favorite scene is when Margot asks for a cheeseburger.
When she goes,
yeah,
collapse.
Yeah, she takes matters into her own hands.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this is my last favorite scene. So you got anything before this?
Nope, mine as well. Okay. Take it away.
So at this point, we are getting near the last course of the evening. And Margot at this point is fed up. And having known, having the knowledge of, what she saw in the silver room and all this stuff, she decides to take matters into her own hands, and she starts running the show. Mm-hmm. And she, subverts everybody's expectations. She does the clap the same way Chef does. They all sit up and they look. And she basically tells Chef, like, I haven't liked a single thing that you have made me tonight. And, like, might just be that I just don't like your cooking. And Chef Sloak kind of looks at her and says, like, what's not been to your liking? And she starts like saying, like, there's no love, there's no passion in your cooking anymore. Like, I want something that I'm actually going to enjoy when I eat it and all this stuff. And Chef, proposes her the question, well, like, what do you want? What can I make you so that way I can satisfy what it is that you're wanting? And she says, I want a cheeseburger. I want like, just a classic.
Yeah. She's like, I don't want none of that avant-garde, deconstructed.
Yeah. Like,
none of that.
I just want a well-made cheeseburger. And you see Chef kind of perk up a little bit, and he goes, I could do that. And, he starts going into specifics, like, how well do you want your cheeseburger done? Medium. You obviously are going to want American cheese because it will melt and not separate, whenever you grill the patties that way. What kind of fries do you want? Crinkle cut or julienne? Goes into all these other specifics about these burgers.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's like, how much is that going to run me?
Yeah, and he goes, $9.95.
Yeah.
She kind of has this moment with the chef where they can actually really just love the food.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this montage of chef just cooking this burger.
Burger's
and, like,
fire.
It looks amazing.
It does.
But like, you just get this montage of him like grilling the meat, putting the onions on and grilling it with it, setting the cheese on, letting it melt, getting the buns out, plating it. And like, you get these certain shots of chef and he's just like smiling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, again, the only meal that he makes the entire night.
Mm-hmm.
Every other meal that gets prepared for all the other guests is cooked by all of the line chefs and line cooks. And the one time that this guy gets to cook throughout the night, it's for something that's as simple as a cheeseburger that, everything else that they ate was like super fancy and high end. And he is at his happiest throughout this entire movie when he's grilling a burger.
Mm-hmm. Like,
and
some would consider that to be
like,
every
low
Joe,
class.
like, yeah, just I'll go to McDonald's and get a burger.
Yeah, exactly. And
so much more.
Yeah, and I love that, whenever he brings it out, he, plates it, sets it down for Margot. She takes a bite.
She's like,
and it's just like, that is a really good burger. And, you see Chef kind of standing there, like, seeing that she's enjoying it. And she goes, but I think my eyes are a little too big for my stomach. Is there a chance I can get it to go? And he's like, I think we can do that for you.
Yeah.
Walks away, gets her a to-go box. She packs it in. She gives him a $10 bill, and he, says, "Thank you for dining at Hawthorne." Mm-hmm. And she walks away.
Yeah.
And
you almost think, is that it?
Yeah, and on a first-time watch, I'm thinking like, how did she just get away like that? He challenged her, like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but on a rewatch, I fully understood that, like, not only did she challenge him and like not put up with what it was that he was giving all the other people, but she related to him on a whole other level that anyone that has come to this restaurant has refused to do.
Yeah.
And I think he also recognizes her as like a fellow like service industry worker.
Yeah, he definitely did.
And like notices that like this person is kind of the same as me. Mm-hmm. And like we have sort of the same outlook on life. And I have gotten to a point where like all of the love that I have had for my art has been taken away.
It's been like just freaking ringed out by the critics.
Yeah, by the takers.
Yes.
He calls them all the takers.
Yes.
And, it's been taken from me. And I went into this with such good intentions because I loved it. And now all of that has been taken by these people who just take and take and take and take and they don't give.
Right.
And you have come in here and you've done nothing but give. And you've done nothing. You've done the complete opposite of taking.
Right.
And you have given me a chance to do something that I loved again. Mm-hmm. And
that passion that
like,
you longed for.
That passion, that love that I longed for so long to enjoy cooking again, I got from simply making a burger.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of that he decides to let her live and decides to let her leave while everybody else who, couldn't even remember a meal that they ate there when they've been there 11 times.
They represent like all of the reasons why he hates his industry. Yeah,
like that specific couple represents like, I think personally like trying to keep up appearances. Like even though they're this old couple and they can afford it, like they couldn't tell you what it was that they ate in the 11 times that they've been there. So like it's not even that they care like about actually being there. It's just that they want the appearance.
They've got the money for it.
Being at a prestigious restaurant like this. Same thing with like the reason as to like why he's gonna kill the washed up actor. And he was like, I got a day off like on Sunday, and like I was so happy that like it was my day off in years. I got to sleep in, and I thought, I'm gonna go see a movie. I went and saw a movie that you started called Calling Dr. Sunshine, and it was the worst movie I've ever seen, and all this stuff. And he was like, well, I didn't direct it, I just acted in it. And he was like, but it's the fact that like the artist lost all of its passion in what it was that it was pursuing, right? The same way that I am.
Yeah,
like
he probably like saw that film and was like, this hits close to home.
Yeah, like and he sees himself also in the actor, right? He's like, you have lost all of your passion for what it was that you initially started out to do, the same way I have. And that pissed me off. So now guess what? You're dying. And like I even love too what he says like to his date, where she was like, what about me? I didn't do anything. And he goes, he said, where did you graduate from? She goes, Brown. He goes, you have student loans? No. And he goes, I'm sorry, you're dying.
Yeah. Like it's almost like he's playing God. And it's like, if you're entitled at all, you're dead.
You're dead.
Like you don't understand the value of things.
Yeah.
I know it. You're dead. I died when he said that.
Yeah. Like that's this whole scene is just hilarious to me. But also just I guess kind of inspiring in a way too, because you see this guy just longing for that passion again, and then he finally gets it.
Yeah.
And then, lets the person who gave him the time of day escape.
Yeah, and I even like it too, because not only does he recognize like the junk, I mean, we talked about this a little earlier, he recognizes like the junk of, his position and where he's at in society, but I think he also recognizes that like he's part of the problem. He is part of the cog that's turning. He allowed his business to get where he's at. And it's not unreasonable for these customers to expect a meal. I mean, they've paid for this. He's providing a service, and then he's complaining about providing that.
Yeah.
So there's almost like an irony here of like, well, if you don't want to be there, then don't do it. But he's doing it.
Yeah.
He's like all this. He's kind of prestigious, and he's almost a little bit arrogant in his art as well. He's like all of this painstaking art. Like, cause there's a quote that I love where he's like, it's that whole scene where he's like, "What did you guys eat here? What was it last?" And she goes, "It's cod." And he's like, "No, it wasn't cod. It was halibut. You donkey." Yeah. And he goes on to say like, it matters to the halibut and to the artist's work that you turn to crap in your stomach.
Yeah.
And he's like, the quote goes on to say, "I've allowed my work to reach the price point to where only this class of people could come and never be satisfied." And then he goes, starting with her, and he points to his mom, and he goes, "This is our culture, isn't it? And my restaurant is part of the problem."
Yeah.
And he definitely recognizes that, which is why I feel like the ending is so much more satisfying.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't just like kill all of them in unique ways. He's like, I'm going to end it too.
Yeah.
I'm at my wit's end. I'm going to burn too.
Yeah.
I'm part of the problem. I'm going to solve that.
Yeah.
And it was just great.
Yeah. And then I did you like the whole like s'mores thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never really thought of it. He's just like, s'mores are
an abomination.
Yeah. He's like, it's gelatinized water with, horrible chocolate.
Yeah.
And
like industry grade graham cracker.
Yeah. And
he's like, it's everything that I have come to hate about cooking, all summarized into one little sandwich that we associate with innocence.
Yeah. I think he's even saying like, it is terrible as a package like that, but it's only transformed when you introduce fire.
Yeah.
And it becomes a different product. And all melts together and all that stuff. And then that kind of is foreshadowing a little bit of what he's deciding. And all the while he's saying all this, like they're laying out these random streaks of artistic, it's all the chocolate and whatever.
They're like plating, a big room, but it's the room.
Yeah.
Right.
The room is the plate.
Yeah.
And, they're putting on their like chocolate helmets, marshmallow shirts or whatever. And he takes a coal out of the oven and sets it down.
Yeah.
And they all end up catching fire and becoming a big s'more.
Yeah. And I love too whenever like he takes the coal and he goes like, "I love you all." And then they all go, "We love you, chef." And he like throws it down and they all get set ablaze. And while that happens, Margot or Aaron is driving off in the boat, she turns around and sees this big explosion and sits outside of the boat a little bit and takes out her cheeseburger again and just kind of starts taking another bite, and then movie ends from there.
Movie ends.
Yeah.
Pretty good, man.
Yeah. Well, if that's it for favorite scenes, let's move into some best quotes.
Okay, let's do it.
So my first one is from Chef Slowick, and it's whenever he is introducing everybody, and he tells people, "Do not eat, taste."
Yeah.
And like when I first heard that, I was kind of like, "That's so like." The type of people that go to this restaurant love to hear crap like that. Like they love to hear crap like, oh, taste with your palate what it is that you're getting from all these ingredients and all this stuff. Not as simply just like, you came for some food, I'm about to make you some great food. Mm-hmm. Like let's eat.
Yeah. He's like, no eating. You have to savor each ecosystem. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like he's up his own booty hole.
Yeah.
I have the one with the host when the dudes start being like, hey, we want some bread. And she goes and like helps him and then whispers in his ear. She goes, you will eat less than you desire and more than you deserve.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah. Another one for me is another quote from Chef Slowick. And he says, I've been fooled into satisfying people who can never truly be satisfied. Mm-hmm. I just thought that like hit his point, his message just on the head.
Mm-hmm. The last one I had is towards the beginning of the film when they're walking through, and she walks through the like that little dorm room that they have, and they go, here we are family. We harvest, we ferment, we slaughter, we marinate, we liquefy, we spherify, we gel. Margot goes, they gel? And then out of nowhere, she goes, we gel. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. My last one was just a moment that made me laugh really hard. And it was at the point when, like, Chef has told them, like, they're all going to die tonight. And they bring out a birthday cake to one of the finance bros.
Oh, yeah. He's like,
and they're all, happy birthday to you, singing it and everything. And he goes, you told him it was my birthday? And they were like, it seemed funny about 3 hours ago. Yeah. And now it feels inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, that's it for quotes for me, though.
Me as well.
All right, let's move into our bro moments. So there are some that we haven't hit on yet, for me at least.
Okay.
First being Tyler snapping pictures of the food every time when he's told not to, and then smacking Margot's hand whenever like she goes to like start to eat.
Yeah, he goes. Psst.
Yeah, crazy.
What else do we got here? Oh, I called him a villain for calling her a child and snapping his fingers.
Oh yeah. Another one for me was just the breadless bread plate sequence.
Yeah.
That was a big bro moment for me. And I thought that it was a funny sequence as well, just because it's like, it's Chef's first little jab at his customers, because, he goes on to say, like, bread has been a symbol for, poor people all around the world. People, poor Greek people used to eat it at breakfast, and they would take, yesterday's bread and dip it in wine and eat it for breakfast. But all the people that are here are not of that class. You are not poor. So you're not going to have any bread. Mm-hmm. You're just going to have everything that would come with the bread without it. And so, like, they get these plates that are, like, supposed to be bread plates, and then they get, like, all these little, like, dipping sauces and oils and stuff like that and everything, but no bread to dip it in.
And they're like,
yeah,
there's no food here.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, it's already his first little jab at them. And it's also a big moment whenever the food critic is, like, even critiquing, like, the little dips and oils, and she's like, oh, there's a slight split in this emulsion. Mm-hmm. Oh, and all this stuff. This one's
broken.
Yeah, this one's broken. It's obviously not correct, and it's, imperfect and all this crap.
And they freaking
and then they're like, they bring her a freaking huge bowl of it, and they're like, here's another broken emulsion for you. Like, it's just this fat bowl of it. Like, it's just super funny. Yeah. And I loved that scene.
What about the whole Doug Varick going in angel wings?
Yeah, him killing him. Yeah. Freaking drowning him. Mm-hmm. Wild. I liked the whole angel investor.
Yeah.
And putting him on in the angel wings and then drowning him and all this stuff.
It reminded me of Midsummer.
Yeah, definitely. Even saying the s'more scene reminds me of Midsummer as well.
It does, yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That's why that's the movie that remember we talked about. I was like, that's the movie that's like it's very much like Midsummer.
Okay.
Where it's just like this mysterious, what the heck is happening, kind of horror-ish themes.
Interesting. Also, the whole palate cleanser scene, whenever they drink the tea and then they go out on the run, and they're like, basically, I'm gonna give you a chance to escape, and I'm gonna give the men 45 seconds to try to escape, and if you can, great. If you can't, you're coming back here and you're dying.
He doesn't even give him an opportunity because that one guy just runs off and he's like, "Oh, okay, time starts now."
Yeah.
The bro moment when the dude he's hiding in the chicken coop and he serves up that egg dish.
He's all, "You're the last survivor, which means you get a special treat."
It looks like a pretty good little treat too.
Yeah. Another one, finding out that Margot is a high-end escort.
Yeah.
Was pretty wild, and her name isn't even actually Margot, it's Erin.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
She's only there because he's paying her to be there.
Yeah. How about even figuring out whenever Tyler knowingly invited her, knowing that she was gonna die?
That made me hate him so much more.
Yeah, and Chef says that in front of everybody, and it was like, I sent, we sat here and emailed back and forth, and you invited this woman knowing that she was going to die.
Yeah.
I told you everyone was going to die, and you still came, and you invited somebody who had no business being here, and now this innocent person is going to die, and that's on your hands.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. She is like, "I'm gonna kill you."
Yeah,
Tyler.
she punches him. Yeah, it's crazy.
Annoying as hell.
Yeah, another one, obviously seeing Tyler hanging.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then obviously the last one for me was the whole Coast Guard sequence.
Oh, okay. My last one was Margot killing that lady, the host lady in the replica kitchen thing.
Okay.
So that's it.
All right. Well, if that's it for bro moments, let's move into facts with the bros.
Yes.
So I've got the budget here. This was made on a $35 million budget. And opening weekend in the U.S., it made $9 million. Gross in the U.S., it made $38.5 million.
Oh.
And for worldwide gross, it made $79.6 million.
Okay, good. So it made its money back. I think it kind of went right to HBO.
Yeah, there was a brief moment in time where it was streaming directly on HBO Max, but it was also being shown in theaters.
Okay.
Because I know I had a chance to watch it in theaters, but I didn't know enough about it, and I was like, I don't know exactly yet. And then Alexa and I went and decided to watch it on HBO Max, and by the time we finished it, I was like, that was great. I kind of wish I would have watched it in theaters. That would have been fun. That would have been a fun time.
It would have been a great time. Yeah, I didn't watch it in theater. But I imagine they lost a little bit of at least stated revenue just because it's on HBO.
Yeah.
So who knows if it was a pretty big success or not.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't catch that if it won any awards? I don't think it did, huh?
I don't think it did.
I remember
didn't see it get a nomination or anything like that.
Yeah, I remember this being one of the movies I wanted at least some kind of recognition, just because it was so unique for me.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the love? You know? Which is part of the reason why I chose it, because I just wanted to dive deeper into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are plenty of weird facts. So the character of the washed-up actor is the actual dude's name is John Leguizamo, which he's played in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I know him from Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet.
Was he Baz Luhrmann's one with Leonardo DiCaprio? He plays one of the Capulets.
Does he really?
Yeah.
He's in all kinds of stuff. I can't remember the movies now.
Yeah.
But his character name is George Diaz, and he is simply credited as just movie star. But he based his character of a washed-up star on Steven Seagal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That makes sense, actually.
He goes on to call him a horrible human due to a particularly bad experience working with him on Executive Decision in 1996. And there are multiple references, I guess, to him playing different roles or being parts of different roles that Steven Seagal took in roles. So I just thought it was funny.
He's not wrong. That's funny. Anytime I think of Steven Seagal, I think of this clip of him trying to like speak with a Russian accent, and he says Vladimir Putin in like the funniest way.
Does he?
Yeah, he goes like, he says something and he goes, Vladimir Putin. And the way he says, I'm like, dude, you are a Californian. Like, this is so bad.
What the heck?
Like, and like some of the movies that guy's in now are just plain awful. Like, I remember seeing clips of a couple on TikTok where like he's doing these like crap action movies, and it just looks like he's not trying at all. And like these action sequences, it's so funny. I'll have to pull one up for you.
I would love to see it.
Another fact that I have here in regards to the writing, the screenwriter Will Tracy actually came up with the idea of the story while he was on his honeymoon in Bergen, Norway, where he took a boat to a fancy restaurant on a nearby private island and realized that they were stuck on the island until the meal was done.
Oh.
Yeah, so there are numerous references to the restaurant in Copenhagen in the menu, starting from the location, the idea, the concept, and even ending with the menu itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of that restaurant, I had read a little article where it was like, it was kind of coincidental around when this movie came out because this restaurant was called the Noma.
Oh, okay.
And it's supposedly like it's very similar to Slowick's restaurant, this prestigious high-end one. And the movie comes out, and I think like it must not have been a week or two later, the restaurant actually closes down.
Oh, wow.
Noma. And it closes down because of allegations of like the staff being treated horribly.
Oh, wow.
And people associate the menu with the closure of the Noma because it's
that's
like
crazy.
all these, it's very like a critical look on the
culinary industry.
Yeah.
That's kind of awesome.
I know. I saw that. And I was like, imagine a movie having that much power.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting to think about.
That's cool.
Yeah.
The last one that I have here actually was, I thought, pretty interesting, and it's a sort of a spoiler, but we're past that point, I think.
Yeah.
The 7 deadly sins are actually represented here.
This is cool.
In each of the people that are dining at the tables, and the staff. But the 7 deadly sins are as follows: greed, gluttony, lust, envy, pride, sloth, and wrath. And greed can be summarized by the finance bros who are embezzling money. Gluttony can be characterized by Tyler, who's willing to straight up die for food.
And he's always taking food off her plates, like shoving his mouth.
Exactly. Lust could be Richard, who cheated on his wife with Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
Envy could be characterized with George, who's a washed-up actor and only wants more for himself and is jealous. Pride being Lillian and Ted, the food critics, who believe that the dinner is just for them. Sloth, Julian's mom, Chef's mom, who did nothing to stop her husband's abuse and just keeps drinking.
Yeah.
And then Wrath, lastly, is Chef himself and all the other chefs who murder everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's so sick.
Yeah.
That's a really cool way to think about each character.
Yeah.
And how they're designed. Super cool.
That was pretty cool.
The last one I have here is just Emma Stone was actually attached to play the lead role.
Oh, wow.
With Alexander Payne directing it. And that was in 2019, and it was only until 2021 that Anya Taylor-Joy replaced her and Mark Mylod to replace Payne.
Oh, wow.
Pretty interesting.
That is pretty interesting, actually. I think the movie would have been a little different had Emma Stone been in it.
I don't know. They both have like this... I got to choose my words carefully because I don't want to call her weird. But she's got... They've got very interesting and unique characteristics.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you.
Say it, but they've got this real strong screen presence to them that I think almost command your attention. I know Anya Taylor-Joy does for sure. Once it's those close-ups of her, I'm just sitting there like,
yeah,
like you're almost kind of intrigued.
Yeah,
and in some ways, I could see those same characteristics in Emma Stone.
Yeah,
so I could see why these two are kind of the top choices.
Yeah, definitely.
That's it for me though.
All right. What didn't work in this movie?
The one thing I will say, I didn't. At least from the first watch, whenever he gave the motivation for having the washed-up actor there, I was like, it's a little weaker than the rest of them, and it kind of it shifted my focus off of like, okay, he's kind of like the justified in why he's bringing these people there. And then I was like, all right, but you just didn't like his movie, bro. I mean, come on, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of weakened his stance for me a little bit. And I know it's got a deeper, you know, he kind of explains it a little more, but I don't know. That's one of the times where I caught myself being like, that decision.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. I think me personally, I think this is a watch it twice and that's it movie for me. I don't know if there's anything left for me to like really want to come back to. Because like I watched the first movie, I was like, man, that was really good. And then I watched it again for the second time and I was like, man, like I noticed things that I didn't even pick up on the first time. But then I found myself afterwards being like, but would I watch it a third time? You know? And come back to it and still feel the same. Yeah. And I don't know if it has like that staying power for me to where I'm like, you know, wanting to just put it back on again, you know.
Yeah. It's kind of like a magic trick you've seen too many times.
A little bit.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's kind of hard to expect a movie to do that for you.
Yeah. And I think also, too, I just wanted the overall message and theme of the movie to hit a little harder. I think some of the times, like, especially the first watch, I think what, like, Chef Slowick is saying and is trying to convey a lot of the time can be, like, a little bit lost and like muddied by like his explanations and the way that he says things and stuff. So I guess maybe that too a little bit.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I can see that. I think like adding on to that, there's a scene too, like especially with the s'mores scene at the very end, like when they're all finally starting to burn and like there's characters looking up saying thank you.
Yeah.
I was kind of left questioning like why,
yeah,
or you know what decision. Like, why did they make that decision?
Yeah.
And I can see where it's a little muddied. And, yeah. Overall, though,
yeah, that's it for me.
There's not really too much.
Yeah. If that's it, then what did work?
I would just say I like the structure of the film. It reminded me a lot of, this is another movie I thought of, the Glass Onion series or the Knives Out series, where it's like the camera is panning around to each person with different conversations going on, and your attention is always tugged to the next conversation and how that plays in to the entire narrative as a whole. I think was nice.
Yeah, I think that's just a testament to the writing as well. I think the writing here and the satire work really well with one another. And it takes like a really good writer to write a good satire. Yeah. Like I'd said before, it's hard work to make a good satire work. And if you write a bad one, everyone's going to know immediately.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to like really dive into the world that it is that you're trying to critique through satire. And it feels like it's genuine here, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. And just the whole story itself, I loved the twists and turns. I loved the different, setting up of the tone and shifting it a different direction. And I think it really leads on to the actors and their performances. I honestly think they did great, especially Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy. I think they hold this film on their shoulders and they killed it.
Yeah, me too. If I do come back to the film, it's going to be for Ralph Fiennes' performance alone.
Yeah, he's like this stern, mysterious, like harsh. Just the way, like, he kind of reminds me of Voldemort. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's hard to see. It's like a different side of it. You know what I mean? It's not like Voldemort, but it's got those same like characteristics, and he's got that like mouth that's just as like thin and sharp, and you just see him and you feel harassed. Like I don't know.
I like to think of him whenever he's in Harry Potter, and Harry Potter has that flashback where he sees Voldemort, and Voldemort just goes.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So I just think the performances here were pretty good.
Yeah, same. I think other than that, I mean, I think I enjoyed the direction here as well. I saw somebody try to say that the direction was like an Ari Aster ripoff. And now that you mentioned you mentioned Midsommar. and I'm like, I wonder if there's any merit there. But
I guess
I
kind of.
I don't know.
They both deal in the realm of like art house kind of thing in different ways. You know, his whole Ari Aster's whole like, it's very art house. It's very, you know, symbolic and all that stuff. But we're in the realm of food where that is the main objective. Mm-hmm. So I can see there's similarities there.
But I think in all actuality, the direction here is good. And I would be curious to see what the director goes on to do from here.
Mark Mylod. Yeah. I don't know. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. But other than that, that's about it for what did work for me.
Me as well.
All right. Who wins this movie?
For me, I'm going to say Ralph Fiennes.
Me too.
Ralph Fiennes is awesome.
Yeah. I loved him in this. So he's the winner here.
Yeah.
What are some themes?
I mean, if you didn't already catch it, it's kind of what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
It's a whole like take on that society.
Yeah.
And how they can, you know, lead you to places where you just end up hating your craft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I essentially wrote the same thing. Just the pretentiousness of the culinary world. And I guess also, like we had said before, just, you know, starting something with good intentions and then losing your love or passion for it along the way. Mm-hmm. And like doing things for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Do you think this film has anything deeper to say about the service industry? And in particular, the adult service industry? Because it's almost like kind of what saves her in a way.
Yeah, and I think it's just because they are within the same world, right? They're in the business of serving people. Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's ultimately why he has compassion for her, because he knows that struggle of trying to serve and satisfy people who can never be satisfied, right? She's in a job where she is literally paid to satisfy someone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I guess that answers the question on why he asks her, do you like what you do?
Yeah.
And when she says yes, it's almost kind of like, I imagine he thinks like, that was me at one point.
Yeah, like why am I not there anymore?
Yeah, and that's why I think he finally is like, okay, I'm going to make the decision for you. You're a giver.
Yeah.
You belong with us.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like that.
All right. If that's it for the themes, what are we rating this bad boy?
Why don't you go first?
I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think I'm going to echo you and give it an 8 as well.
All right.
Solid.
Yes. Stamp of approval. Boom.
Yes, sir.
Film Bros approved. But yeah, that's the end of the episode, you guys. So if you stuck all the way to the end, we appreciate you. If you are watching on YouTube and you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps us out and lets us know that you guys are liking what we're watching. But also lets you guys know that there are new episodes coming out. If you want to hit the bell notification as well, so that way you're notified whenever episodes get uploaded, that would help us out as well. Mm-hmm. And also liking the video and commenting and letting us know what it is that you specifically liked about the video, what you didn't like, joining in on the conversation, letting us know some things that possibly we didn't hit on or something like that. You can either do that through YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast applications, you can do that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, all that stuff through a rate and review, and let us know what you're thinking. If you don't want to do that on a huge public platform, then you can go into our episode descriptions and connect with us through our Instagram accounts, our Letterboxd accounts, or our email address, and let us know what you're thinking there as well. So without further ado, we're going to introduce our next pick for next week. And because Abe isn't here, we're going to shimmy on over to my pick real quick, just because I want him to be able to talk about his pick and, you know, have the satisfaction of being able to, you know, indulge in something that he really wants to talk about.
Yeah.
So the next episode that we're going to do is something that I'm picking, and it is a movie called Her. This movie, I think, came out in like 2013.
2013.
Yeah. And I've watched this movie like twice. I haven't watched it in so long. And I remember the 2 times loving it, but also like being so sad after.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an exploration into hard topics that are very complicated. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even sure I have a full grasp on what the film is trying to say.
Yeah.
But I know I love it.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to dive into it again. I I remember just loving the whole world that gets built in this movie, but also just the topics that are discussed and the feelings that I felt when I watched it. And I even found myself wanting to watch the movie again because I think even my dad loves this movie. And like, I remember him telling me about his love for the film and just the types of things that he got thinking afterwards and all this stuff. And I just made me want to check it out again. So
it's
I'm excited to watch it again. I don't think it's streaming anywhere currently.
No, unfortunately, I think it was on Netflix.
Okay.
If you want a brief premise, just think of falling in love with ChatGPT.
Yeah. Falling in love with AI.
Yeah. However that works.
Yeah.
What's human?
Yeah. Exactly. So we're going to be talking about Her next week. I think it's renting. You can probably rent it anywhere. Apple,
all the
Vudu,
classics.
all that stuff. If you have it physically, pop it in and hear what we have to say next week about the film Her. As always, this has been the Film Bros Podcast. Thank you and good night.
Good night.